Welcome back to our channel. Today we'll delve into the story of Donna Douglas, the woman the world would forever know and adore as Elly May Clampett. That is the story we might expect. The cliche of fame faded and fortune lost, but the truth is far more poignant. A narrative not of one abandoned house, but of a life lived across a spectrum of symbolic homes. One, a magnificent and globally recognized television set she never truly inhabited. Another, a fiercely guarded private sanctuary she kept hidden from the world. And the last, a simple, deeply rooted haven she ultimately returned to, a place where the soul of the real Donna Douglas could finally be at peace. The unexpected truth isn't in a property she abandoned, but in the profound lifelong search for what home truly meant, a search that took her from the bayous of Louisiana to the most famous fictional address in Bel Air, and finally full circle back to the soil that first shaped her. To understand Donna's uniquely complex relationship with the concept of home, one must travel back in time, not to the glitz of Hollywood, but to the humid, moss-draped landscapes of East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana. Born Doris Ione Smith in the tiny unincorporated community of Pride, she was forged by the land itself. This was not the manicured chlorinated green of Beverly Hills. It was a primal, untamed world of cypress trees, murky waters, and the constant hum of insects. She grew up on her grandparents' farm, a childhood experience that would prove to be the most authentic and enduring foundation of her entire life. She was a quintessential tomboy, with a spirit as free as the critters she so deeply adored. Her days were spent not in quiet play, but in spirited adventure, climbing trees higher than her brother dared, playing softball with a fierce, competitive streak, and learning the practical, unglamorous rhythms of farm life. She understood the earth in a way that city dwellers never could. Her hands knew the feel of soil, the warmth of an animal's coat, the satisfaction of work done under an open sky. This raw, authentic upbringing was the blueprint for Donna Douglas. It was a world away from the carefully constructed personas that Hollywood demanded. When she blossomed into a stunning beauty, winning titles like Miss Baton Rouge and subsequently Miss New Orleans in 1957, it wasn't a transformation of her inner self, but rather the discovery of a key. These titles were her passport out of the familiar and into the unknown, a journey to New York City with little more than a suitcase, a resilient spirit, and a honey-inflected southern drawl that producers would later find utterly captivating. She was navigating this new world as a young single mother, having married and divorced early. Her ambition wasn't just for fame or glamour, it was fundamentally rooted in the primal need to provide a stable home for her son, Danny. This inherent duality would shadow her for the rest of her life, the bombshell beauty queen whose image graced magazine covers, and the down-to-earth country girl who was simply searching for a safe place to land for herself and her child. This quest for authentic shelter, both physical and spiritual, became the unspoken theme of her existence. Her arrival in Hollywood was meteoric. Small television roles quickly showcased a talent that went far beyond her girl-next-door beauty. A particularly memorable, haunting role in a classic 1960 episode of The Twilight Zone, titled Eye of the Beholder, proved her dramatic range. In it, her face, considered the epitome of beauty by the audience, is hidden for most of the episode, only to be revealed as a grotesque anomaly in a society of pig-faced people. The role was prophetic. It was about the tyranny of conformity and the pain of being different, themes that would resonate deeply with a woman who always felt slightly out of step with the Hollywood machine. But it was in 1962 that her life and her public association with a single iconic piece of real estate would be irrevocably cemented. When she auditioned for a quirky new sitcom pilot called The Beverly Hillbillies, creator Paul Henning was looking for something specific. He needed an actress who could embody the character of Elly May Clampett, a mountain girl whose innocence was matched only by her stunning beauty and her baffling strength. Hundreds of actresses read for the part, but none felt right. When Donna Douglas walked in, Henning saw the physical manifestation of his character. To seal the deal, the casting director made an unusual request, one that would have sent most Hollywood hopefuls running for the door. He asked her to milk a goat right there at the audition. For Donna, who had grown up on a farm, this was not a challenge. It was a homecoming. "I'd milked cows before," she'd later recall with a characteristic, easy laugh. "I figured they were equipped pretty much the same." In that simple, earthy act, the line between Doris Smith from Pride, Louisiana, and Elly May Clampett from the Ozark Mountains vanished completely. She wasn't just playing a role. She was channeling a life she had already lived. She got the part before she even left the room. For the next 9 years and 274 episodes, the world came to know Donna Douglas through the fictional home of the Clampett family, the magnificent, sprawling French neoclassical estate known as the Kirkcaldy Mansion. Located at 750 Bel Air Road in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods on the planet, this property became more than just a backdrop. It was a central character in the show. Built in 1933 by the engineer and hotelier Lynn Atkinson, the 21,523 square foot mansion was a masterpiece of limestone-clad elegance, designed by architect Sumner Spalding. Its soaring 2-story entrance hall, its sweeping grand staircase, its perfectly manicured gardens designed by the legendary Florence Yoke, and of course its famous 75-foot-long swimming pool, quickly dubbed the Cement Pond by Jed Clampett, became instantly recognizable to hundreds of millions of viewers. This mansion was the physical embodiment of the show's central comedic premise, the ultimate culture clash. It was a symbol of old money opulence and refined taste, now inhabited by a family of simple, unpretentious mountain folk whose wealth was a happy accident. The comedy sprang from watching the Clampetts try to make sense of their new environment. The billiard room became a place to dry laundry. The formal dining room was where Granny cooked up possum stew. The garage, meant for Rolls Royces, was filled with Jed's old jalopy. For the audience, this was peak television, a gentle satire on the absurdities of class and wealth in America. But for Donna Douglas, the Kirkcaldy Mansion was something else entirely. It was, first and foremost, a workplace. She spent countless hours on its grounds and on the meticulously recreated soundstage interiors. She knew its every angle, the way the California light hit the limestone in the late afternoon, the echo of footsteps in the cavernous entry hall. She was intimately familiar with this palace of dreams, yet it was never hers. It was an elaborate, beautifully crafted illusion. While Elly May wrestled with her critters by the cement pond, Donna Douglas, the actress, was keenly aware of the artifice. She was, in a sense, a long-term visitor in a home that belonged to everyone and no one. This experience undoubtedly shaped her perception of high-end real estate. She saw up close how a home could be a status symbol, a public statement, a commodity. But she also learned that a house, no matter how grand, does not automatically make a home. The warmth of the Clampett family existed in spite of the mansion's intimidating grandeur, not because of it. It was a lesson that would deeply inform her own life choices. While the cameras rolled on the fictional Clampett estate, Donna's real life was unfolding in the very same exclusive zip codes of Los Angeles. After her second marriage in 1971 to Robert M. Leeds, the director of the Beverly Hillbillies, She was firmly ensconced in the world of Hollywood's elite. They lived in Beverly Hills, the epicenter of celebrity and luxury real estate. Yet a deep dive into the archives of the era reveals a curious void. There are no lavish spreads in Architectural Digest or Better Homes and Gardens detailing Donna Douglas's interior design choices. There are no gushing articles about the wild Hollywood party she hosted in a sprawling modernist villa. Unlike her contemporaries, who often use their homes as extensions of their public personas, stages for interviews and photo shoots, Donna's home was a fortress of privacy. It was a retreat, a deliberate and clear separation between the public figure of Elly May and the private individual, Donna. This intentional privacy makes it difficult to paint a detailed picture of her Beverly Hills residence. We can, however, engage in informed speculation based on the trends of the era and her own personality. The 1970s in Beverly Hills saw a move away from the staunch traditionalism of the past towards a more relaxed, California-centric modernism. It's likely her home was not a cavernous, formal estate like the Kirkby Mansion, but perhaps a more intimate, single-story ranch-style house, or a Spanish-style villa with a private courtyard, a common architectural style in the area that afforded both luxury and seclusion. One can imagine the interiors reflecting her dual nature. Perhaps a living room with elegant, comfortable furniture suitable for entertaining close friends, but with subtle touches of her Louisiana roots. A piece of rustic pottery, a painting of a bayou landscape. The most telling space undoubtedly would have been the backyard. It's almost impossible to imagine Donna Douglas living anywhere without a significant connection to the outdoors. One can picture a lush green space, not overly manicured like the Bel Air estates she worked in, but a garden that felt alive and a little untamed. A place with mature trees, blooming flowers that attracted birds and butterflies, and perhaps a quiet corner where she could sit and read away from the prying eyes of the world. It would have been her personal scaled-down version of Elly May's paradise, a sanctuary for her own critters, whether they were household pets or the wild birds of the canyon. After the Beverly Hillbillies ended its phenomenal run in 1971, and with her marriage to Leeds ending in divorce in 1980, Donna embarked on a new chapter. She made a decision that, on the surface, seems unusual for a famous television star, but in reality was a logical extension of her life experiences. She got her real estate license. For a period in the late 1970s and early 1980s, Donna Douglas, the woman America had watched live in the most famous TV mansion in history, was selling the very dream she had been a part of. This was a fascinating pivot. It placed her directly at the intersection of fantasy and reality. Imagine the scene. Prospective buyers, perhaps wealthy executives or foreign investors, arranged to see a multi-million-dollar property in Trousdale Estates or the Hollywood Hills. They arrive at the property expecting a slick, fast-talking agent in a power suit. Instead, they are greeted by the warm, instantly recognizable face of Elly May Clampett. The cognitive dissonance must have been extraordinary. Yet who better to sell the dream of Beverly Hills than someone who had lived at its very center? Donna would have brought a unique perspective to the job. She understood the architecture, the value, and the cachet of these magnificent homes. She had spent years working in one of the grandest of them all, but she also understood what lay beneath the surface. She knew that behind the towering gates and security systems were families, individuals seeking comfort, status, or seclusion. She could speak the language of square footage and property taxes, but she could also connect with clients on a human level. One can imagine her walking clients through a property, not just pointing out the marble floors and sub-zero refrigerators, but helping them envision a life there. "This room has wonderful morning light," she might say with her gentle drawl. "It would be a lovely place for your children to play." She was selling more than just property. She was selling the idea of home, an idea she herself was still exploring. This career move was a practical, intelligent application of her unique life experience, allowing her to maintain her independence and financial security while remaining within the world she knew, but this time on her own terms. Simultaneously, Donna was cultivating another home, one that had no physical address, no property lines, and no market value. Yet it was the most important real estate she would ever occupy. Her Christian faith, deeply instilled during her Louisiana upbringing, became her true and unshakable sanctuary. It was the bedrock upon which she built the rest of her life. As Hollywood careened into the more sexually liberated and morally ambiguous era of the late 1970s and 1980s, Donna found herself at a profound ethical crossroads. The industry that had made her a star now offered her roles that clashed violently with her deeply held beliefs. She was offered lucrative parts in major nighttime soap operas, the kind of roles that would have guaranteed her continued fame and fortune. But the scripts were filled with adultery, backstabbing, and a brand of glamour she found hollow. She made the conscious and, in Hollywood terms, radical decision to walk away. She turned down roles, fame, and money, choosing instead to protect her own integrity. "I wanted to do a certain caliber of work," she stated firmly in later interviews, "and I didn't want to do garbage." This was not a choice made from naivety or fear, but from a profound and unwavering sense of self. Her faith was not a casual Sunday affiliation. It was the very lens through which she viewed the world. It was her refuge, her moral compass, and a home that was more real, more comforting, and more permanent than any brick-and-mortar structure in California could ever be. This spiritual home guided her to a new calling, one that aligned perfectly with her values. She began a successful career as a gospel singer, recording several albums, including Donna Douglas Sings Gospel and Back on the Mountain. She traveled the country, not as a nostalgia act, but as a speaker and singer, sharing her message of hope and faith at churches, revival meetings, and youth groups. She found a different kind of audience, one that connected not with the fictional character of Elly May, but with the authentic testimony of Donna Douglas. She also channeled her passions into writing, authoring a children's book titled Donna's Critters and Kids, a collection of children's stories with a Bible touch, which seamlessly wove biblical parables with her lifelong genuine love for animals. This was the real Donna, the woman who had perhaps always been there, just waiting for the glare of the Hollywood spotlights to finally fade. She was still Elly May to millions, and she graciously embraced that. But she had become a teacher, a storyteller, and a spiritual guide, worlds away from the superficial glamour of Beverly Hills real estate. The final chapter of Donna Douglas's lifelong search for home is perhaps the most telling and the most moving. Around the year 2005, after decades in California, she made the momentous decision to leave it all behind. She didn't move to another entertainment hub like Nashville or a trendy retirement community in Arizona. She went home. She returned to Louisiana, settling in the small, quiet town of Zachary, just a short drive from where she grew up in Pride. This was the completion of a grand circle, a return to the land that had forged her, the place where the soil felt familiar beneath her feet and the humid air smelled of memories. Her life in Louisiana was quiet, private, and by all accounts, deeply fulfilling. She had come home not in defeat, but in triumph. She had conquered Hollywood on her own terms and had chosen to return to a life of simplicity and authenticity. Her days were spent gardening, a passion that connected her back to her farm girl roots. She spent precious time with her son, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren, reveling in the role of a beloved matriarch. She remained incredibly dedicated to her fans, personally answering countless letters each week, always signing off with a reference to her favorite Bible verse, Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. She had traded the Hollywood hustle, the screenings, the agents, and the deal-making for the gentle, predictable rhythms of Southern life. The glitz was gone, replaced by a genuine, hard-won contentment. After Donna passed away from pancreatic cancer on January 1st, 2015, at the age of 82, the world was granted one last intimate glimpse into the private world she had built for herself. An auction of her estate was held by Southern Heirs Auction in the nearby town of Walker, Louisiana. The items put up for bid told the story of her life far more eloquently than any tabloid or biography ever could. It was a museum of a life well lived. There were, of course, autographed photos and memorabilia from her Hollywood days, a tangible link to the past that she never disowned but had placed in its proper perspective. But alongside the Hollywood artifacts were her personal treasures. There was crystal she had collected, elegant fur coats from another era, and beautiful furniture. And then there was the most talked about and sought after item, an ornate 5-piece bedroom set, rumored to have been a personal gift from the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley, her handsome co-star in the 1966 musical film Frankie and Johnny. The auctioneer noted the immense passionate interest from fans all over the country, people who didn't just want a souvenir, but who wanted to own a small, tangible piece of the woman they felt they knew and loved. The proceeds from the auction, fittingly, went to her son, Danny, the very boy she had set off to New York to provide for all those decades ago. The circle was complete. This auction was not a sad liquidation of a forgotten celebrity's abandoned things. It was a celebration of a life lived on her own terms. It was the final quiet testament to what Donna Douglas truly valued. Her final home in Zachary, Louisiana was not a mansion. It was not a stage. It was a place filled with the accumulated memories of a life that was both extraordinary in its public scope and deeply, beautifully ordinary in its private moments. What, then, do the properties and homes of Donna Douglas ultimately reveal to us about her? They tell a profound story about the difference between a house and a home. They show us that the grandest, most famous estate in Beverly Hills can feel empty and alien if your heart and soul are longing for something more authentic. They reveal that a person can work and thrive in a world of illusion and glamour and still hold fast to an unshakable inner truth. Donna's story is not about an abandoned house because in the truest sense, she never abandoned her home. She carried it with her every day, in her unwavering faith, in her abiding love for the natural world, and in her resilient, uncompromising sense of self. The ultimate beautiful irony of her life is that Elly May Clampett, the fictional character who was famously plucked from the countryside and unhappily plopped into a Beverly Hills mansion, was, in the end, the perfect mirror image of the real woman who played her. A woman who, after decades of navigating the strange, often treacherous currents of fame, found her own path straight back to the quiet, familiar comfort of her own backyard. Her true net worth wasn't measured in the fluctuating value of California real estate or the residuals from a hit TV show, but in the immeasurable richness of a life that began and ended exactly where it was always meant to be, at home in Louisiana, a country girl, finally and forever at peace. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future uploads. See you next time.